Now?
Yeah, now it's good.
Yes, great. Yep, hello everyone. My name is Yong-uk Jung, and I'm the host of today's Sustainable Transformation Seminar Series, hosted by Industrial Transformation Platform in KTH. Today we have our colleague, Farazee Asif. He is an assistant professor at the Department of Production Engineering, KTH Stockholm, and he is very active in circular manufacturing systems since 2009, and he has been appointed as a docent recently. And also, he is a coordinator of Sustainable Manufacturing System research team at KTH, and he has been funded by lots of projects related to sustainable manufacturing systems. And he's also one of the founding members of the C at KTH research platform. So he's a member of the research team as well. So I'm really glad to have you as a speaker today, and floor is yours, and if we can hear and listen to more about you from your side.
Thank you, Yongkok, for a nice introduction, and it's my pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to talk a little bit about my research. So as you see, the title of the presentation is Role of Digitalization in Implementing Circular Manufacturing Systems. And this title already includes the element what I'm going to present. So I'm going to briefly introduce you to the concept of circular manufacturing system. Is the area of research that I'm active in since 2009, as John Cook mentioned. And then I will try to connect it with digitalization, how digitalization actually can support in implementing CMS and our circular manufacturing systems. And then I will try to, of course, explain it with an example so that it becomes a little bit more concrete for you. So that's the plan. And to introduce circular manufacturing system, I think it's better to start with the linear system. And in most cases, our industry is built on these linear manufacturing systems, which means that we take resources, we make goods, and then we use the good. And when the goods are comes to their end of life, we dispose it. And this is the linear approach that industry is being since the early industrial era. There are two issues with this sort of linear approach. One is that this linear system assumes that the natural resources that we need for manufacturing goods are infinite, and the waste carrying capacity that we have is also infinite. Yeah, but these both assumptions are not quite correct. And this is not a sustainable way of running an industry, because resources are limited, especially non-renewable resources, and we cannot waste as we like. So we need to rethink how the manufacturing system is working today, and how the future manufacturing system should look like. But of course, in linear system as well, there is an effort to make a circular approach to conserve resources. And mostly in linear system, we use recycling as a way to deal with some of the issues with natural resources and waste. And that I call circularity in the linear system. So when product comes to its end of life, we take them back to some facilities where we extract the material. So that is the circularity in the linear system. And it is quite, as you know, it is quite established industry that recycling is happening in many sectors. But there's one thing that I think it's important to reflect, is that the recycling itself is ineffective in many aspects, in many cases. Just to look into the general distribution of value in a product, in many cases you will find out that a product value if you look into the material value, it is only 15% of a product is material value, and the rest is the added value in terms of labor, energy, equipment, etc. So when you are making a product, when a product is being manufactured, is only 15% of the value is material, and on top of that we are adding so much effort. So when we are recycling, we are actually capturing the 15% of value and then losing 85% of the value. And to capture this 15% value, we are putting additional energy, we are putting additional labor, and also we are in some cases polluting the environment as well. So that's probably not the best way for a long run sustainable manufacturing. So instead, if we can create a manufacturing system which is a little bit more circular, for example, when the product is coming to its end of life, if we can take the product back from where it was originally produced, and if we could reuse some of the components of the product or remanufacture the whole product and send it back. And when reuse and remanufacturing is not possible, only then if we recycle and if we follow this approach, then you can keep the loop of product and component closed for longer time, and also material loop closed for longer time. And by doing that, we will reduce the need for input, new raw material input, and also we will reduce the waste that we usually produce as part of the manufacturing. And this is the core concept of circular manufacturing system, and this is where we are mostly focusing on in our research. Now, why should we prioritize remanufacturing and reuse? As I mentioned, when we are recycling, we are only capturing the limited amount of value. And this is a typical figure probably you have seen, is that when we are remanufacturing, we are actually recapturing 80% of the labor value that is put in a product, and 85% equivalent value in plant and equipment, 80% of the material, and 80% of the energy. That means we are recapturing quite a lot of value that is already put into the product. So there is a economic rationale behind this, and of course there is a environmental benefit connected to that. And this is not only in theory. Yeah, in practice it is also happening. I mean, if you look into especially heavy machinery and automotive sector, remanufacturing is an established business. I put together two examples. For example, Renault and Caterpillar, they're remanufacturing their variety of products, and they are doing it profitably, and they have shown a significant improvement when it comes to sustainability. So the point here is that on one side the theory says this has benefit, and we see the practical implementation of it. Yeah? So it, to me, quite obvious that there is a value. Yeah, so we should go towards more circular. Now the problem is why, despite this value and a proven track record, why remanufacturing is not becoming a mainstream business. And this is just to highlight how behind we are. So if you look at the whole European market, we'll see that remanufacturing intensity in Europe is only 1.9%. So that means when we are making 100 washing machines new, we are only remanufacturing 2 of them, which shows there is a significant improvement opportunity. Imagine that we create an industrial system where we have 50-50 remanufacturing and recycling, then we will remanufacturing and manufacturing, then we can actually reduce natural resource consumption and also waste. And this is what we are pushing. Okay, go more towards circular manufacturing and reuse remanufacture. Now, of course, one of the major questions that comes out, okay, why is not the remanufacturing becoming a mainstream business? We have found out there are some classic challenges when it comes to conventional remanufacturing approach, and the the challenge here is that uncertainty in quality of course, quantity of course, and timing of core return. What it means, core in this case is used product, right? So if you are a remanufacturer, you would like to get used product back to your remanufacturing facility. And that's the problem. You don't get the right number of cores when you want. You don't get the right quality cores. You can get, let's say, 10 cores, but maybe only 2 of them are remanufacturable. And you are asking for 10 cores, but you are only getting 5 because the market does not have enough core. And when the cores will come back, it is also not very certain. Now imagine we have a linear system where supply of raw material is this uncertain. The whole linear system, linear manufacturer will collapse. And this is the issue with remanufacturing in current days. It is being established as an industry, but they suffer from this issue. And to be able to scale up remanufacturing activity and go from 2% ratio to beyond, we need to take a systemic approach. And to take a systemic approach, we need to look into these 4 areas of manufacturing: business model, product design, supply chain, and information and communication technology. And this is the part that I will focus today, the information and communication technology. But our research is on all these 4 areas, and we also appreciate that there is a connection between product design, business model, supply chain, and ICT. So if you are only looking at one of these elements, probably you will not be able to become complete circular. Just an example. So if you have a paper use as a business model, this is just a business model to maintain ownership of your product, but that necessarily doesn't mean that your products could be remanufactured if your product is not designed for that. So if you change your business model, your product design must also adapted to the business model. So this connection is important to appreciate and also manage when you are implementing a circular manufacturing system. So in our research, we focus on these 4 areas, but also we look into the interaction and see how this plays along. And when we are implementing, so we take into consideration this interaction and we move forward systematically until we come to the complete implementation. And this part I will try to explain a little bit more with an example, so it becomes a little bit more concrete for you. So this is the example that I'm going to show was part of a EU project, and it ended December last year successfully. And in fact, this was nominated as a success story. So soon this will be published on European Union's Commission's website as a success story. And the project is about demonstrating implementation of circular manufacturing systems using 2 cases. One is white goods and the other one is automotive parts. So I will focus today only on white goods example. And to implement CMS, we took a system approach, as you see in the middle. We looked into business model, we looked into product design, and we also looked into supply chain and their interaction. And we also developed some enabling tools, ICT platforms, which I will briefly describe. And this together has supported the companies to become circular. So this is the white good example. So what we did basically at higher level, so we have implemented 330 appliances as paper use offers in Denmark, Netherlands, Slovenia, and Sweden. As we speak, 330 machines are being used by users, which is under this paper use agreement. So what does this paper use entails? So the users have several options to choose from. It includes a monthly fixed fee. So that is one offer. The other one could be a start fee and then additional fee as the product is being used. So let's say 10 wash cycle is included, but if you go 15, then you pay for additional 5. And we have categorized the segment into 3 categories called bronze, silver, and gold. And gold offering means that you will always get a brand new machine with high level of service. Yeah, so the machine will always be, you know, proactively served and everything. And the bronze is the lower part of the you know, offering. There you will get a machine which may have been refurbished twice, and then the level of service is a little bit lower, meaning that if your machine breaks down, maybe you'll have to wait 1 week to get it fixed. So this is how the categorization has been done, and this is also to make sure that we have room for remanufacturing and refurbishment and put the product back into the market. And service package, as I mentioned, that this has different levels, and installation and deinstallation is included. So this the OEM maintains the ownership of it and then provide only the service. And there is also possibility for the customers to switch from one category to another. Yeah, so this is more or less the business model. Now, when you go for this kind of business model, you unfold a certain, you know, challenges. Yeah, and this is a couple of the challenges. So now you are owning the machine and you are offering 100% uptime. Yeah, so that means many different information needs to be made available in real time to different people. Like, for example, the user needs to know how many wash cycle he or she has used. The service person needs to know, okay, when to do the next service so that the machine doesn't break down. The service person needs to know, okay, what is the health of the machine so that I can proactively decide when to go and which tools I need. So there are a lot of information that you suddenly need in order to provide this service. And this cannot be done with the conventional infrastructure that we have, or the conventional approach that we have. So what we have done in this project, we actually developed a smart machine, yeah, meaning that the machine has different sensors which can sense different aspects, including in the wash cycle and temperature and program that is being used, but also some sensors are used to recognize the health, basic, not very advanced. And then we also developed an IoT platform that can, you know, capture this information, process this information, and present this information in a usable form. And that is also connected with the ERP system. And then, of course, we developed a couple of different application interface, so different users can, you know, get the information that is relevant for them. So just to highlight, so the smart machine that was developed, it is sensor enabled. It could be operated remotely and monitored remotely. And then this is also capable of transferring the information to the IoT platform. And of course, signal simplified repair and maintenance instances. An IoT platform takes this information, process it, convert it to some sort of usable form, and then, you know, send it to the IoT platform. And the IoT platform is the gateway where the users can read that information and act upon. So this is just a screenshot picture taken from the production line where these smart machines were developed. Yeah. Now this is two screenshots showing the customer side of the platform. So mobile app to monitor and start the program and so on, and e-wallet, for example, to buy the product or subscribe for the offer. And then this is a screenshot from the platform where this is made for the user, the service personnel, and also for the OEM. For example, you can monitor, okay, how many wash cycle has been used, which program, and, for example, how much to be charged to the customer for his or her service. So this was the development to support the implementation, and this development was necessary in order to implement the circular manufacturing system, because you cannot have a machine deployed in someone's apartment and not having any information. Then you do not know when the product needs to be brought back, when the product needs to be served, when the product needs to be refurbished. So this ICT infrastructure or digitalization is a necessary element to implement, and this is what I was referring to, that the role of digitalization in implementing CMS. Now, what does it do in the context of these three different uncertainties that we have talked about? Now, since we have implemented ICT, digitalized the process, and the ownership is with the OEM, so now OEM has a better control of the quality of the cores. Why? Is because the machines have a standard operation procedure. The OEM is maintaining the machine, monitoring the machine, has all the report that is necessary. So that means when the product is coming back for refurbishment, the OEM has very good understanding what the condition what condition it has and what intervention it needs. The quantity, of course, you can also have improved the quantity, because now you have a control over how many appliances are there, 330 machines. So you know what are the contracts that are available in the market and when the machines will come back. And since you have this information, you also know the timing. Yeah. So in fact, through this digitalization and the change in the business model, we have reduced uncertainty in quality and quantity and timing of core return. And this is what I started with, that okay, the conventional manufacturing has these issues, and our research is about reducing that uncertainty, and this is what we have done. And this is more or less what I wanted to present to you. So I hope that this was understandable, and you got some idea what we have done as part of the project. And this is just a slide to show what we are aiming in the coming 4 years. So I got funded for another new project, and in this project, what we are looking into is that we have 4 different cases, and we are going to digitalize the value recovery activities in this particular case. For example, how do we automatize a selection process when the old products are coming back? How do you optimize the reverse logistics? For example, we can monitor the health of the washing machine in different locations and say, okay, 10 machines in Stockholm has now a condition that needs to be brought back for value recovery. So we can optimize reverse logistics as well. So these are more or less at higher level what we are aiming for this project. And this would be the last slide from my side. So I hope that you got some understanding of my research and how digitalization is connected to implementation of circular manufacturing systems. So please feel free to ask any question if you have. I hope I kept the time.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. It was really interesting presentation. Maybe if there is any question, you can just unmute yourself. Yes, Anna, you have a question, and Eric, you can go to the next. So Anna, maybe you
I can ask after Eric, because I want to scientist talk first.
No.
Okay.
Quite the contrary.
Okay, I have very fast question. This is one of the branches when it comes to white products. When it comes to cars, it's already very digitalized. Do you have any experience? Do you want to comment upon this? And what is left to do? And any advices of investments? If you know some companies, you would, for some brands.
Yeah, I understand your question, and I think I will agree a little bit and also disagree a little bit. Now, the digitalization part that we are talking about in the car industry are purely for linear system. So they have developed this digital solution to provide, service and, sell more service. And in most cases, that information and digitalization is not used for closing the loop or remanufacturing and refurbishment. Yeah, just to give you an example, when we are talking about automotive components, we are talking about starters, right? So let's say we want to remanufacture starters. When we are disassembling and starters from a car, we do not have any clue what it is and how it is. Yeah, although the car could give us a lot of valuable information, but that information is not connected with the starter anymore at this stage. So of course this is advanced, but we are not utilizing the information that we have and the infrastructure that we have. So I think we have to start there and see what we can utilize from the existing information, and then we will be able to decide what should be the next step. And I know many companies are thinking about it, but they are still quite behind or needs a couple of more steps before we know more about what is needed.
Thank you.
Yep, maybe Eric, you can go next.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting, Asif, with your presentation. So inspiring. I think it's two questions wrapped into one. The first question that I had is this type of service from the manufacturer of the washing machines. Do they advertise themselves as being circular, or is this an important part of this new type of business model or concept that they have developed?
Well, still at this stage, they're very careful with the marketing. Yeah, so they internally, appreciate and agrees that this is necessary, and that's why they are doing the pilot and doing the research. But they are not very vocal. At least this company yet is not very vocal in terms of communicating with the customers, because they are one of the front runners, and you always want to be very careful before you go public. Yeah, but this information is available. They try to disseminate in the form of an approach to more sustainable industry. And in fact, the company is now setting up a refurbishment facility, so they are progressing. But they are not very marketing it very widely because of the reason that I mentioned. They want to take it carefully.
And my other question, I think it's like complementary to this. Right now, you presented us an example from this washing machine makers, but I was thinking about the possibilities of circularity beyond this example.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, how important is our consumers in this in the thinking of circular manufacturing?
I think the customer is one of the keys, because they are the one who will be buying it, right? Or who will be subscribing for it. So if you cannot, sell it, then there is no business case for the companies, right? Although we see some shift already in the consumer market, yeah, people want to become sustainable or at least contribute to sustainability. But we also see some traditional, what do you call, inertia as well. Definitely customers are important, and also there are there is work needs to be done.
Thank you very much. Asif, I have a maybe related question to the Eric's one. Because I think nowadays, your business model, it looks like the ownership of the product is from the OEM, and the customer is like a renting or the leasing that things. And
Yeah.
as you mentioned, the customer is very important. And for example, if I'm leasing or if I'm renting a car, maybe the customer behavior is less responsible, and maybe they can think, okay, I can replace my product to the next one. And do you think this one, how can you like fix this? Because if the customer doesn't have responsibilities, then maybe the quality of the product will go down and so on. So it's more about the like a behavior or the culture. Maybe some people they prefer the new product than the remanufactured, refurbished one. How do you think about this?
Yeah, no, definitely, and you have a very good point. Just to give you maybe a funny example, as part of the previous, not this recipes project, but Rescom project. There we also piloted, a leasing of stroller. And within that pilot, within the project frame, we actually got some stroller back to see how they look like. And in fact, the company also found, old sandwich wrapped into the stroller. So when the stroller came back, they found a 3-month-old sandwich inside. So definitely the customer behavior is an important aspect here. But this is something that you can always regulate, in my opinion, right? So there is some sort of agreement between you and the customer. Okay, this is what is expected from your side. Yeah. So you cannot be reckless. Yeah, you can be reckless, but then of course the machine will have a track of that. And if that is the case, then I mean, in the non-conventional leasing system as well, in the car, you have some criteria that you need to fulfill to maintain the resale value, right? So you cannot go beyond the mileage. If you go, you have to pay. There are extensive, insurance behind that will make sure that if you crash it, someone else is taking the responsibility. So all these things could be managed, yeah. And of course, there is also a role to play as a consumer, and also custom OEMs to decide, okay, how in a good way we can build this trust and relationship.
Yep, thank you very much. Zohara, you have a question?
Yes, or maybe 2 questions, but I guess the first question, first of all, thanks for the presentation. I think I agree with Eric. It's very inspiring to see this example. And I was wondering if you mentioned that there is another case in automotive, but talking about other industries, have you considered to translate or expand this model to maybe in production equipment? Because you had the product design as part of your 4 areas. Yeah. But I wonder inside the product, like when we talk about the production equipment and have this circular system so that once the equipment is not used, what do we do with it? Because I guess what we learn is that it's often just store or just sent to landfill. But I guess this is a really good way, I guess, or a case that maybe, I don't know, you have any insights on that?
Definitely. But if you look into the equipment itself, that's a product by a manufacturer. Right? Now, if we are talking about equipment by Atlas Copco, for example, so definitely this idea could also be applied in case of Atlas Copco leasing or the OEM subscribing for tools, for example. So this is definitely a way, and this has similarities with washing machine and whatever. So if we are talking about machines, big machines, equipments, they are product of some companies. Now, if these companies want to go for this kind of model, this is completely feasible. Yeah. To give an example, so we are now working with one company that produces a printing machine for printing circuit board. Now they're thinking of, okay, instead of selling the machines, what if we can give it to the companies to use it, and which we get paid as they use. So the equipment itself, as you pointed out, could also fall under the category of this, pay-per-use or leasing, if the OEMs of the equipment manufacturers are interested.
And then I guess if I may add another question, because I was thinking about, okay, the example that you gave us is inside your project scope. But then I wonder, I guess that also the company that you work with had to, of course, put in some resources. And I don't know what kind of structures they needed to put in place to facilitate having monitoring the equipment, like collecting the data, a part of the IoT systems that you also work with.
So you mean what additional development they had to do? Or?
Yes, exactly. I think you mentioned that, for example, now in the future they're thinking about a refurbishing center, or like, I don't know if there's going to be like another team that is in charge of this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about in terms of resources, I guess there needs to be like a substantial, or at least like a team leading this. So I wonder, how does it look like in the setup of your project, supporting additional supporting structures?
Yeah, so for the project, as you mentioned, the resources in terms of financial contribution came from the European Commission, 70% of that, and the 30% of the cost was bared by the company themselves. Now, the company definitely within this scope of the project did not employ a lot of people. What they have done actually use the existing infrastructure. So they use their local service points, yeah, and they paid them to implement this business model. So this was the setup. Now, when you scale up, so pilot is always like this. You try to do it with your internal people, internal resources. You try it. In some cases, maybe this, increases the workload. But once the pilot is tested and, validated, then you go for a scale up. Now, they are setting up this refurbishment center, meaning that it's a new facility, new building, where 5 people will be, starting working from autumn this year. Now, these 5 people could be, transferred from the factory, or could be new recruit. That we do not know. But there is a delegated, resource and plan on that. And this is how typically, in my opinion, also, company scales up their business.
Yeah, can I ask a question? Hilti is a company that shifted its business model from selling equipment that entrepreneurs use, in any profession, to instead leasing them. And I don't think they went as far as any kind of an IoT connection to see how those tools were being used, because of course it's fairly easy to take a tool back to Hilti. But do you know how successful Hilti was with this new business model, leasing?
Which company? So I didn't catch the name of
Hilti, H-I-L-T-E.
Oh, Hilti, yeah. I have read about their, pilot and examples, but I do not know much of the details, how successful they are. But from my research, point of view and what we have seen, of course, you can lease things, yeah, and not know anything about the product and equipment. You bring it back, then you are in square zero again. Yeah, it's the classical remanufacturing issue. And of course, you will be probably in some cases be able to remanufacturing, and most cases you will not be. Yeah, so this is more like 50-50 chance of succeeding. Now, what we are seeing or pushing or saying that if you, for example, this company would have used an IoT or adapted the design accordingly, then they would be able to make more informed decision. They would be able to recover value more than what they are doing today.
Thanks.
I have a very simple question, Asif.
Yeah.
How do you see the future, like in 20 years or 30 years? Do you think everyone will subscribe all the product from their white goods, or how do you see it like in next 20 or in the future? Or how do you expect?
Yeah, no, this is not a simple question, Yongkook. This is a complicated question. We do not know what will happen in future. But you said, okay, what is my expectation? Yeah, I think I will start with my expectation. And the expectation here is that, okay, we go up with this, the ratio of value recovery or remanufacturing that is happening today. And my gut feeling is that this is going to go up. The reason is obvious, is because we see a lot of movement going on, a lot of financing being pushed by European Commission. Companies are also taking initiative. So this will go up, but to what extent I cannot tell. Yeah, and whether all products will be subscribable, probably not in 20 years. That's my gut feeling. But I hope for and I hope I'm optimistic, and I hope that more product will be remanufactured. Now the point here is not to subscribe more. The point here is to conserve more resources. Now how you do that, that's a different story. We have many good bad example of subscription, yeah, where you have a subscription model, but they are wasting more than the linear system. I don't want to name any because of political reason, but there could also be that you don't have a subscription model, but the companies are doing very well when it comes to conserving resources. So the subscription model is a way to probably go forward for some, maybe not others. The point here is that we need to push as a scientist and practitioner is how we can support industry to be more independent of natural resources and non-renewable resources.
Yeah, that is really a nice answer. I think we still have one question. We can have one more question if there is any question. Or yeah, otherwise maybe
Any
we can...
suggestions of future investments? Which companies you would like to recommend? If, for example, if we save some money and we would like to, if the company is already in public, initial public offerings, because otherwise it's difficult.
I see your which direction you are going. So this is my response to that. From what I think is important is some leading companies that we always see as an example takes the lead or takes this initiative. Big companies, I don't want to name any, but if big companies do this and show other people or other companies that this is doable, yeah, and they also have power in some cases. For example, a big company is probably getting supplies from thousands of suppliers. So if they prove the concept and if they push that okay, we want to go that way, then probably many other companies will follow. So bigger ones, giant ones that has more power, more resources, more influence, I think should do this.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's time to finish our seminar. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you very much, Asif. It was really nice to have you as a speaker. And Zuhara, you shared the link in the chat. So to improve our seminar series, we are really glad that if you can give us some feedback in the Menti link. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a nice weekend.
Thanks for inviting, and thanks everybody for joining. And if there is anything that you want to discuss or want to get back, you can always reach me through LinkedIn or email or telephone.